Hi, I'm Kat. Welcome to my channel and to a new video. So today we are going to be reading recommendations from Kindle Unlimited. So I read a lot of books on Kindle Unlimited, and last year actually I read probably about a quarter of my books from there. And I want to keep that energy going into this year and really make sure that, I'm getting my money's worth out of subscribing to this. So today we are going to be seeing, does Kindle Unlimited have a sense of the types of books I actually like? And are there recommendations going to be any good? Like, are we gonna find some books that I actually like through the different recommendations from them? So I'm gonna get my iPad and just excuse how it's gonna be filmed, but we're just gonna go through the recommended for me books and see what I might want to pick up. So this is terribly filmed and I am sorry about that, but this is kind of where we are right now but this is going to be kind of just where we're at today. So there's a bunch of different categories we can do. There is recommended for me, similar to your last read, based on your reading, for you in romantic comedy, for you in fantasy romance. And I think what I'm going to do is just try to pick a book out of all of these different categories. So starting off with recommended for me. So I did read the first book in this series recently, same with this one. Neither of those I really want to read right now. I'm reading this series right now, so I'm not going to do that. Hated everything I've read so far by Frida McFadden. But maybe I want to do a Megan Quinn book. So what is this one? Okay, I think this one I could do. It is a fun, sexy story about the family dynamics that stand in the way of rekindling a romance. I think I could definitely be into this one, so we'll say this is book number 1. Okay, so let's go back home. Let's go back. And so we did this category. I'm not going to do most wished for. Similar to your last book. Actually, a lot of these sound interesting. This is book 1. Oh, a Viking romantic fantasy. Okay, Vikings meet Throne of Glass. You know what? Actually, sure. We're going to do this one. I don't need to read any more, but The Road of Bones by Demi Winters. This is going to be the next one. All right, let's go back. Okay, based on my reading, I've already read this. No interest in reading that. Maybe. So this one, I just read the first book to that, so I'm not going to read that right now. We've been reading for my book club. Not going to do that. I've read that author before. I have the first one of this downloaded. Maybe Penelope Douglas. Oh, actually, is this no, I think this is no. So I've heard about this one. It's like a step cousin, whatever romance. Don't want to do that. I've never read anything by Sophie Lark before, and I know she does, I think, dark romance. Okay, so a guy who loves control, is wealthy, maybe it's a billionaire romance. Yeah, you know what? I've never tried Sophie Lark before, and I know she's a really popular author, so sure, let's do this. And then to the next, I could want to read this one because I have read the other 2 books in this one and really liked it. I have also read the other ones in this and liked, and I've read the ones in this and liked. So it's like there's actually a fair amount of books that could be an option here. I have read a lot of the novellas in this series, but I'm not going to read this one for this video, but they're just very short novellas and they're fantastic. So right now I'm kind of between King Agreed or Caught Up. I think Caught Up is a single dad romance, which that is really, really for me. Yeah, a single dad who is on a baseball team. Yeah, this is going to be the one I do. I love a single dad romance, so this one, perfect. Also, what do you guys think? Do you think it's cheating if I'm continuing to read on in a series that I've read before? Does that kind of make it easier for me to find one that I'll like? Maybe. And maybe if I'm reading one from an author I like too, it's a little bit of a cheat. So I definitely want to get a rom-com, and just automatically, I think I'm going to do, I think this is the first book. No, that one's not. So Behind the Net by Stephanie Archer. Yeah, and that one, the first one was this was right here too. Yeah, so Behind the Net, I'm going to do this one. It is, I've heard a lot of really good things, and Grumpy Sunshine plus hockey romance. That is a good combination for me. Okay, so I do know I want to get something out of this list also. I don't think I'm going to do romantic suspense, but I definitely want one here. And let's go here. Like immediately I just drawn to this one. I've loved all the other books I've read from J. Bree, so I do really want to read this one. I do think there's 2 novellas you have to read first, but we're going to say this one. And okay, we're at 6 books right now. Yeah, I don't want to do continue series you started. No, I don't really want to do that either. For you and no, yeah, this is the last category here, so sure, let's do this. Okay, I've never read Avery Keelan, never heard of her either. Throttled, is that her sports, like her racing one? Elle Kennedy, I don't know if I like her. Jennifer Hartman, never read either. Should I go another sports romance? Maybe not. Okay, I've read Lucy Score before, so I don't want to do, I want to have like a mix of new to me authors and authors I've read from before. Let's just go back to the start. So, is this, I guess this is the first one. Okay, it looks like a hockey romance. Heartbreaker, troublemaker, my ex's biggest rival. College hockey. College hockey is kind of a no for me. I don't know. I'm not as big into the college things. Say You Swear? Boys of Apex. She isn't mine, but I'll still be hers. Brother's Best Friend? Ooh. Okay, Brother's Best Friends. Maybe. So what is this? Throttled. Sister. Ooh, Formula One. Okay. I'm not in on racing, but maybe. What is this? Oh, this is the author of Zodiac Academy, so no, I know I'm not going to enjoy that. This Hockey Gods. What number is this? I don't know what one, where that is. My darling. 2 Wounded Souls, Me by Chance. Yeah, okay, I'll go with this one. This is like the first one I'm seeing that's not a hockey romance, so sure, let's go with this one. Okay, so there we go. We have 5, 6, 7 books. And there's a few, honestly, mostly contemporary romances, which is interesting. I typically am more of a fantasy romance girl, and I don't read a crazy amount of romance, so this will be interesting to see. And also, again, sorry about how terrible. I know that was probably the worst quality ever. The screen recording isn't working on my computer right now, so this is what we're doing. And yeah, so we have 7 books, and I am very excited to dive in and see how these go. So I'm not sure what one I'm going to start up with yet, but definitely really interesting to see if these recommendations work for me, because there are, I mean, I guess I feel like I'm cheating by picking 3 authors that I know I like, but then there are 4 authors who are completely new to me. So let's dive in and see how this goes. So I decided to start off with like a fun romance. I found that is kind of like the best way to go with this, but I decided to start with My Darling Bride by Isla Madden Mills. And I think, no, she's not the only one. There's several new authors for me in this video, so she's one of them. And I think that's kind of why I wanted to do this, is like, it's a little bit of a risk to see if I'm gonna like her or not. But I can absolutely say so far that I am loving this book. It is so good. Like, it did take me a little bit to get into it, just to kind of get used to what's happening and her writing style, but oh my god, I'm so into this book. So we're following Emmy. The book starts off at this like little motel in the middle of nowhere in Nevada. She just found out her boyfriend had been cheating on her, so they were at a wedding in Vegas, and she decides to just kind of like run into the desert, go to the first motel she finds, and just kind of hide out for a few days. And while she's there, there's this like creepy guy who's kind of like, you can tell, trying to hit on her, trying to see if she's there alone. So she kind of like grabs onto the first guy she sees and is like, oh, this is my boyfriend, this is the guy I'm with, he's here. And it's also because this guy is gigantic. He is huge. He looks really scary, and he just kind of goes along with it. He's pretty confused, but he goes along with it. And then things happen. He thinks she's kind of weird, but whatever. But then later on that day, her ex-boyfriend manages to track her down and it sounds like there was a little bit of abuse that was happening there as well. So she basically panics and ends up stealing this guy who she pretended to be her boyfriend. She steals his car and runs off to the airport with it. She goes back to her life after stealing this car. Turns out that the guy she stole the car from, Graham, he is, first of all, he's a very famous NFL player, but there's also a weird connection where Emmy happens to know his brother and all of this stuff, and Graham like finds her. So he has this problem. He's from this really rich family and he does make a lot of money through the NFL, but there's this clause on this inheritance that he has that he can only access it when he's 30 and married. And it was written in a way by a very homophobic grandparent that basically says that you have to be married to a woman. So this is a problem for his younger brother who is gay and married to a man, and he needs money because he wants to open a gym, but he refuses to take it from his brother. But again, it's confusing, but there's some clause in the inheritance that if one brother gets it, the other is able to access it or something like that. So Graham is able to, if he gets married, there's something saying that like his brother will be able to access his money as well. Like there's some kind of clause. So he needs to find a wife, and soon. And who's the perfect choice but this woman who stole his car and owes him one. So he ends up finding her and basically proposing that, you know, like, let's do this fake marriage. I will give you $1 million. I'll help you out financially. He also bought the bookstore that she works at and kind of like gives it to her. Kind of weird, but like it's this whole convoluted thing of they're gonna have a fake marriage basically for money. And like, I don't know why, but it is actually working like incredibly well for me. It is a very convoluted plan, but it is essentially fake dating and marriage of convenience. And those are two things I really, really love in my books. And just something about this is really, really working so well. I'm really liking the characters. They have like, our main character, Emmy, has like a great family, a great like cast of characters by her side, a great friend group. And I love that. I love that in it. She works in a bookstore. It's a very like fun, kind of eclectic bookstore. Like it seems like there's just always interesting things happening. I love that. And Graham as a character, he's fine. He's fine. He's kind of whatever. He's bland a little, but aside from that, I'm enjoying everything else. And yeah, I don't know why, but I'm like really, really surprised at how much I'm liking this one, and I have been thoroughly addicted to this. So I'm having like the best possible feeling about how this is going to turn out, and I am feeling so incredibly confident that this is going to be a great read. Yeah, just loving it so far. So I'm officially done My Darling Bride, and I'm like very surprised to say this, but it's gonna be 5 stars. I honestly don't know what worked so well for me, but it was just, I think like the writing, the tropes, the relationship, just everything ended up working so well that I got like really, really into this relationship, into the love story, into everything that was happening, and just like couldn't help but get so addicted to it. Yeah, just every part of it worked. Every part of it just had me like giddy and happy and like giggling along because I was just so rooting for the relationship, and I was just loving this like slow journey of them like in this fake marriage, realizing that they care for each other, getting very emotionally invested, having all of these things happen, and then just kind of like melding into each other's lives. And yeah, I loved it. I really, really loved it. It just worked so well for me in so many ways. And like, I think it just also, I like the characters. I like the cast of like friends and family who are around. Like all of them were very interesting side characters, and just so much about it like worked. And I really liked seeing how they fell in love. It felt realistic. It just, yeah, really, really good. Really great writing. And I really want to look more into other things that this author's written, because I really am curious to see like what I would think, and yeah, if more of her books would work this well for me. So I'm incredibly happy. I'm thrilled. First book, here we go. We have a 5-star. And I mean, is this a good sign that this video is going to go fantastic? Let's hope. Let's hope that like maybe Kindle really knows my taste. Like clearly this one book already fantastic. So I'm feeling like maybe this is going to be a great experiment, and I am super excited for like all of the books in this, which is a good sign too. So I mean, this excited. First book is a win. The other ones just, they sound very fun. So I'm thrilled right now. I am just so happy and have the best feeling ever about how this is gonna go.
Fait que ça, c'est le village. Vous voyez la montagne qui habitait la maison. Mais...
Just the b-roll that was up. We just yesterday visited the Canadian History Museum. I always get the name wrong because it's different names in different places, but either the Museum of Canadian History or the Canadian Museum of Civilization. But if you're ever in Ottawa, highly would recommend. I've been there a bunch of times, but we have a friend visiting, so we just went there, and fantastic. Very, very interesting. Yeah, very nice one. And yeah, 100% would recommend going to see it because really interesting histories on the Indigenous population in Canada and also the kind of like the settlers from Europe who came to Canada and how the country came to be how it is now. Very, very interesting. So 100% would recommend. And then I do have some reading updates actually, where I've started into 2 books, and they are Vacation Wars by Megan Quinn and The Road of Bones by Demi Winters. So both of them I'm under halfway, probably like 30 to 40% in. Okay, let's start with Vacation Wars. So in this one, we're following a group of friends. So there's 4 friends who have been like very tightly knit, very involved in each other's lives. And since they've been teenagers, they have been like basically the most important thing in each other's lives. There are twin sisters and then 2 other girls, and they created this pact at 18 of the set of rules that would guide them through life so that they would always remain close, always remain friends, and always be super active in each other's lives. So they're on vacation for one of the girls' weddings. There's a week coming. Wedding is in a week, and they decided to do a girls' trip the week before, just all of them kind of enjoying a week of peace on the beach. They decide to spice things up by bringing into this pact this one rule that they had when if somebody's 30 and single, they relinquish control of like basically their dating life to their other friends, and the other friends are 100% responsible for finding like a relationship for someone. So they decide to have fun on the relationship and have fun on this vacation and invoke this rule for our main character. So she's 30, single, recently went through a breakup, has been having terrible dating history, and they decide that they are going to spend this next week trying to find her love. Like their goal for this wedding is for her to walk out of there with a new boyfriend. Honestly, like this book seems very silly. I'm getting the vibe that a lot of this is just going to be like jolly vacation, good time, friends just kind of being ridiculous, because so much of what is happening is already ridiculous. There's like pranks being played on each other. The girl who's being who's being set up with all these guys is not into it at all, and the hijinks are just kind of like over the top. Also, so this family had been going to this one resort in Greece for their entire childhood, and our main character has always had a crush on this one guy who works there. So she basically grew up alongside this guy and has always had like this really intense crush on him, and we're really following that too. We're like, it's definitely going to be a relationship between the 2 of them. Like I have no doubt of that. But overall, this one seems okay. I think I'm not really vibing with the humor in it yet. It's just like, it's kind of silly, which again, not a problem. It's just kind of a silly fun time. And yeah, like nothing too special. I really like the idea of the friend group, and the only thing is like none of the personalities of the friends seem that well fleshed out. Like they all kind of seem the same, but the friend dynamic and this intense friendship that they have, these intense rules, all of that is interesting to see. So like I'm enjoying that part, but yeah, overall not loving the main character, and all of the side characters just kind of seem bland. And then I started The Road of Bones, which I'm also feeling pretty bland about, to be honest. We're following a young woman. She and her father were traveling. Her father was killed, and now she's on the run from these people. She doesn't know why, but she's running from these people, and she comes across a band of mercenaries and kind of gets brought into them, and they offer her sanctuary. She becomes a member of them, and they're traveling this like Road of Bones. Pretty bland so far. Like that's all that's happened. Nothing is that interesting. I'm not really finding anything that interesting in this one, unfortunately. Like all of the characters just seem bland. I don't really get what's happening in terms of like why this woman's being hunted down or anything, and it just like it's not interesting so far, unfortunately. I am like 30-ish% into this one, and like I'm really hoping it's going to turn around, but so far no luck. It's bland. It's really bland, and yeah, and don't care for the character. She has this like, she's mysteriously seeing this little child everywhere with her. I don't know. Her father apparently kept a bunch of secrets. I don't know. It's not interesting. Like it has these mysteries, but like it's not giving me a reason to care for them yet. So I finished reading Road of Bones, and it really didn't improve for me at all as I was going through it. It just like stayed pretty boring, to be honest. And unfortunately, this one's going to stay like very much within that like 3-star area, because like it really, there wasn't anything too bad about it. It just wasn't overly interesting. So the main plot of this is that we're following a woman who's on the run from somebody who's trying to hunt her down. She's kind of unsure why, but basically her father was killed and she's been hunted ever since, and she's trying to get away. She's been given this address in this one city. She's trying to get there, and she's traveling along this like road of bones and comes across a Viking mercenary group. So she manages to convince them to take her along, and kind of like she joins their crew and basically becomes their cook because she's not really a fighter. And they agree to like take her across these roads of bones, which are supposedly like super dangerous. There's people who constantly attack you, like you get robbed at every turn, this type of place. And along the journey, she starts falling for one, maybe two. I think it's going to be a love triangle of the mercenary members. And she starts to learn these things about herself and learn like why she's being hunted, because there's still somebody who's like very avidly following her this entire time. I think just like the mystery in this one wasn't very interesting because there was nothing that I felt I really cared about. The stakes were not there. Like there was nothing that actually made me worried about this character or concerned about like whether or not she'll make it, and nothing that I actually like, I don't know, I wanted to know. I didn't really want to know what was going to happen. I didn't care. And this mystery, like there was nothing about it that felt intriguing to figure out why she was being hunted down. Like I just really did not have any of that interest, unfortunately. So it's like a 3-star. It wasn't terrible. It just, again, like it didn't have anything that was gripping about it. Like the characters felt very uninteresting, very one-dimensional, and there's 2 potential love interests. And I think it took me until about 70% through the book to realize that they were in fact 2 distinct people and not just the same person with like a nickname. So like that was definitely a huge detriment because there's nothing like very distinguishing about them to me, or nothing that distinguished them to that level that like could really differentiate between the characters. So it didn't really do anything for me. And this is gonna be a series that like I'm definitely not gonna go forward in because I don't care. I read one, I'm fine, and that's fine. It also didn't really bring any of like that Viking aspect I was hoping into it, so I'm just disappointed overall. And yeah, this one unfortunately did not live up to my taste. Was not something that, or was not a outstanding recommendation. It was just another bland, kind of boring book. And I'm still going along in Vacation Wars. It's still kind of the same vibe of like this silly game, these people constantly battling over this thing, and just all of these friends kind of being terrible to each other. So again, this one I'm not having the best feeling about either. So I'm officially done with Vacation Wars, and it's a 3-star. This one ended up being so disappointing to me. Like I honestly kind of thought that we were going to be doing something with it, and we didn't. It was flat. It was kind of just uncomfortable. So much of this book is, like I was saying, these friends and this weird, overly involved relationship with each other. They have this pact that if somebody's single by 30, the other ones get to take control of their relationship. So they decide to like set up our main character with somebody and just kind of like go insane during this week, just throwing guys at her, hoping that one of them sticks. And at the same time, she is kind of like starting to talk to this guy who works at this resort who she's been not even involved with, but she's had a crush on her entire life because his family owns a resort. So they kind of grew up alongside each other, but never really interacting, just kind of like seeing each other from afar. Found like this was a really weird mix of like, it went way too silly at some parts and then got very emotional at others. And like, there was such a weird mix of like not finding this proper balance of like, does it want to be a funny book? Does it want to be a very serious book? Is it about toxic friendship? Is it about true friendship, love? Like, I don't know. I don't know kind of where the point of this was going. And it was just strange. Like, it felt like it was trying to be very emotional at times and it didn't work. And then it felt like it was trying to be funny, but it was just too over the top that it felt uncomfortable. And yeah, it kind of, nothing about it kind of worked really. Like, and I was hoping too that this would be a nice book about friendship and like just really make you feel like this love for your friends, love for this friend group. And I kind of just hated them all. And like also all of the friends felt so one-dimensional. Like each of them had a personality aspect. Like one of them's a mother, the other one's a podcaster. And it was like, that's their personality. There was nothing else. And yeah, it was unfortunate, but it was only a 3-star. I'm really disappointed. I really thought this one would be better, but yeah, not for me, unfortunately. Fun concept, I guess, but just like the execution was not quite there. So this recommendation, not a fail per se, but not really a win either, I guess. So I finished my next book, which was Behind the Net by Stephanie Archer, and another 3-star. So this one is a sports romance, which if you couldn't tell that by the cover, well, good luck to you. But we are following a hockey player and his new assistant, who she is a singer who recently like went through a really bad breakup with her boyfriend while on tour, and she decided to find like more of a stable job. So she's becoming a assistant to this hockey player, hoping that it will lead to like a full-time job with the league. And they both went to the same high school together, and they both remember each other but doesn't think the other person remembers them. But in high school they both had crushes on each other, but again, they were in very different like groups, very different types of people, so they never really interacted that much and just kind of assumed the other person wouldn't know who they are. But it ends up being they fall for each other, and you know. So I did have the first little bit of this was like fantastic. I read the first little bit and really enjoying it, and that I don't know, but like 100 pages in, I'd say I just like really lost interest. And I think part of it is just there were too many sex scenes, which it felt like that really took away from the plot. Like it felt like the author didn't know what to do next, so she just kept adding sex scenes, which I do enjoy a smutty book, but it also like sometimes it just distracts from the actual story, I guess. And it felt like very much like that in this one, where it just like there wasn't enough plot for like to balance out the romance and everything, and it just didn't like have enough interesting going on. And also our male main character, his mother deals with anxiety, and the way that he's treating her I found to be a little weird. Like he's very protective of his mother, but it felt like he was almost like babying her in certain ways, where he really was like removing her choices, all obstacles, and like really just being like so on top of her to the point that like I understand kind of how that could give her anxiety too. Yeah, and he was kind of treating it like her anxiety is absolutely destroying her life, which in some senses it was, but it also was like the way he was treating her kind of made it so that she wouldn't get help. Like it felt like he was making it such a big deal that she was afraid to get help for it, and I don't know, that it felt weird for me. So yeah, like just something about this one didn't work, and I don't think I really like the relationship. I don't necessarily love either in a book when there's like this musical aspect, I guess. Like I don't love when one of the main characters is a musician, because like it just adds something that I'm not that into, or not into reading about. Yeah, I didn't love it. I didn't love the relationship dynamics. I didn't love the characters, didn't love the setting, the story. Like it was fine. It just wasn't really that great. So we're kind of like doing terrible in this video, to be honest. I'm feeling very disappointed in how many 3-stars we've had, and like, ugh, like this one I think could have been better if it was shorter and had more time on the romance and less on the sex. I think this one definitely could have improved for that. But yeah, just disappointed overall. Okay, I am finally on to the next book, which I decided to go next with There Are No Saints by Sophie Lark. Honestly, because out of the 3 books that are remaining, I think this one is going to be the worst. So I kind of want to like end this video on a really high note. So I'm like, let's get this bad one out of the way. And not that I think it's going to be bad. I think that I'm just going to have maybe a little bit of trouble with the subject matter. So I'm not a huge dark romance person. If I am going to read one, I think the only ones that I've really enjoyed are like kind of mafia, like a little bit like Touch Her and Die kind of vibes. I don't know how I'm going to feel about this one, because we are following a romance from a serial killer, and he is a serial killer who he's in this like competition with another one. So the two of them are both artists, and our main character that we're following, he thinks he's like better than everyone else, especially better than this other guy, and he only kills like only men, and he disposes the body in a way that like they will not be found, whereas the other guy kills women and like really like mutilates their bodies to make it like a scene, like to get national attention, to get people talking about it. So we're following the two of them. Well, no, we're only following the perspective of the first guy. He is left the body of a girl. Well, she's still alive, but she is dying. The other serial killer leaves him this body, and he kind of sees her, and it's kind of like the message being like, here's a girl for you, do what you will, go ahead, kill her, whatever. But he sees this girl, and instead of doing anything, he just kind of sees her, walks away, and she is left there tied up, but manages to free herself, get away. Then when guy number 1 finds out that she is still alive, he becomes obsessed with her. He becomes like really weirdly like stalking her really intensely. It seems that that he's going to try to find like a way to like really like push himself into her life and make himself like really important. So because she is also an artist and he is an artist, so he is very wealthy, she is young, really struggling, like very much the starving artist, and he finds a way to offer her like kind of a mentorship or like kind of the spot within his studio so that she's working not directly under him but like working very closely with him. She has her own studio space but rented by him. It's like all of these things that like he is getting their lives intertwined. He's very much stalking her. He's like breaking into her apartment and smelling her things and like all this kind of thing, like just watching her from her bedroom window, all of this. And this book is supposed to be a romance between the two of them. I don't know. I'm really not feeling it. Like, I do have to say, this is very well written. Like, I think that Sophie Lark, this is only the second book I've read from her, but I think she's a fantastic writer. And I really appreciate the way she's writing, but I feel so uncomfortable reading this stalking romance. And I'm gonna say something crazy. I could get past a serial killer. I could get past him being a serial killer. I cannot get past him being such a creepy stalker. And I'm just feeling really uncomfortable with every scene where we're like in his head and he's watching her and all of this stuff. I just feel so deeply uncomfortable with it, and it's making it really hard to enjoy it. So I do have a feeling, I do have a very strong feeling that this one is not going to be highly rated for me, just because like I don't see where it could change, where it could go, that like I'm not going to come out of this feeling uncomfortable and a bit weird. Like I don't know what way this will be able to be turned that I'm not gonna just feel kind of cringy about it. So like I honestly, I don't know what could change it to make it better. Hi, so I'm done There Are No Saints, and I feel kind of icky. I feel kind of icky coming out of this one. It just like, it didn't do it for me. It did not. It just made me feel really gross. So yeah, it's a relationship between a serial killer and the girl that he is ridiculously obsessed with, and no, it's not for me. It is just kind of icky, kind of gross. I could not handle this like weird, obsessive, creepy, stalking type of relationship they had. It did not do it. So there were just so many scenes that like, no, just they didn't even go too over the top. It was just kind of like, yeah, there wasn't anything. There was one scene where he like forcefully tattooed the girl, but otherwise like there weren't that many scenes that were like overly intense, overly disgusting, overly like really insane. It just overall, the vibe of the book just kind of left me with like a gross feeling. And it's so crazy to say that like I think the worst part for me was just the stalking and how insane this guy was, like with being obsessed and possessive with this girl he's dating. Like honestly, I think that was the worst part. Like the serial killing didn't end up being that huge of a part of a plot. Like we didn't really actively see him kill that many people. We didn't see him like hunt people, like really like obsessively try to murder things. He was just really obsessed with this girl and treated her like she is his property. And I didn't like that. I just thought that was so intensely gross, and I could not get past that. Couldn't like get my head into it. Couldn't get myself to enjoy it or anything. Like it just felt gross. And this is definitely incredibly hard to rate because I do think that the writing was fantastic. And this is the second book I've read by Sophie Lark. I think she's a really good writer. I really think that like she writes an intriguing story and she knows how to get you invested, but the subject matter was just so not it for me. So like I'm kind of between a 2 and a 3 star. And like I don't really want to give it a 2 just because the book itself wasn't terrible. It's just my reaction. But like in good conscience, can I give it over a 2? I don't know, because I'm having such a visceral reaction to being like so disgusted by it. So I really don't know. I really don't know how I'm feeling. I don't know what I want to give this. I think I'm gonna give it a 3 and just try to never think of this again, but this was so not it for me. And yeah, we are really clearing or really confirming that I don't think dark romances are fully my thing. There's some mafia romances I think that like could potentially work for me, but yeah, this was not it. So immediately, to get that out of my head, I started the other 2 books that are remaining, and these are Caught Up and The Crown of Oaths and Curses. So first off, let's talk about Crown and Oath and Curses. So this is a new fantasy series by J. Bree. It is a like really intense enemies to lovers, and I've only gotten a little bit into this book because before you are supposed to read this one, there are 2 novellas to read. So I did those first. Each one of them was about like 120, 150 pages. And these I can see why they were incredibly important to read before, because it is really laying the entire setting and giving you the characters' backstories. So we are going into this like ultimate enemies to lovers. We have fated mates who are destined to be together, but their races are mortal enemies. So we have a witch whose entire family was massacred, and she finds out that her mate is this elven prince, and the two of them have, like, their two races have been at war for hundreds, maybe thousands of years because of this dark witch who's come in and really like enslaved all of the witches to him. And all of the elves seem to think that the witches are there willingly. Most of them are not, but it's created this huge war between their people. And now it is like, basically, if you are a witch caught in an elf land, you are killed. Elves and witches do not interact. They hate each other on sight, all of this. And we got a very, very good backstory for both of them in these novellas. And now coming into the book, our main character has decided to finally like face her fate. So she received, like, the seer told her that she would marry the elven prince, and she left the continent. So she decided to leave the continent, go fight in this war for 200 years, and now has finally decided it's time to face her fate. It's time to face what is destined to her, and she's returning back to find this prince and just face what's going to happen. And he, all of these years, has been waiting patiently. So his fate was that 1,000 years after it's read, he's going to meet his fated mate, and she will break a curse that's on his people. And then when he meets her and realizes she's a witch, instant chaos, instant disgust, instant chaos. And I can tell this is going to be like such an intense slow burn, like them really, really, really slowly getting to know each other. And like right now she's still a prisoner for him. She's like a prisoner in his castle. They're not interacting, and it's going to be very slow, I think, but I'm liking it a lot. I love Jay Bree's writing, and I'm really, really enjoying like the setting, this world, all of this. So I do have a good feeling about this one. And the other book I started is Caught Up by Liz Tomford, which another one, this is an author that I really like, an author that I've given 5 stars to before. So this one is the third in a series of like sports romances, and we're following a baseball player named Kai, who is a single father, and he has a 1-year-old baby, and we are following him as he has his manager's daughter, who is a pastry chef on a break. So she is hired as his nanny for the summer, and it's going to be a romance between them. I can pretty much guarantee I'm going to love this one just because single dad romances are my thing. I love them so much. Like I always end up loving single dad romances. So I have a really, really good feeling about this one. And I also love romances with like a single dad and a nanny too. That is another trope I love. So I have a really good feeling about this one. And again, I know I like this author. So we're going to end this video out on a high, and we're going to love both these books. I can tell we're going to love them. Yes, you found a 5-star book. I think this is the second in this video. I think so. Which part of me is kind of disappointed because I was kind of hoping that would just be like 5s across the board, but I'm also just so happy, so happy we have one. I did go into this one feeling pretty confident, like pretty, feeling like this one had a good chance of getting a 5-star because it is an author I've given 5 stars before, and it's a single father romance, which again, like that is one of my jams, one of my favorite types of romance. So we really went into this one with like the best possible chance, and I'm so happy to say that like it actually worked out. And yeah, just something about these like especially single father romances, especially like I have enjoyed a few single mother romances, but something about the single father one, we're just seeing this man who's like so protective of his child, who like is so devoted, who cares and like has so much love. Something about it just like gets to me every time, and it really does make me feel so emotional. It gets me so invested, and I love seeing like just the children too and how much they care, how much like, this new person coming into the child's life falls in love with them also. Because especially in this one, we're following Miller, who becomes this boy's nanny, and she is his nanny. She is falling in love with this child, and she is like really so quickly having him become part of her life. And I love seeing that, like the first, like they fall for the child first and then realize that like they love the man, they love this family, they want to be part of this, and like it works so well. This one worked so well for me. I felt so many emotions. I just felt so many things. And yes, we have to give it a 5-star. We have to with how much I enjoyed this. Like there's, no denying that I love this one. And I don't know, it just really, really works. really works so well. So yeah, loved it. I really like her books too. I just think they work so well for me. So I'm thrilled. And once again, like, I'm really, for the most part, really enjoying a lot of the sports romances I've been picking up lately. I think this is the first baseball related romance, and it didn't have a heavy emphasis on the sport, which I like. I like when it's kind of, there's that team part, that like brothership, that like team love, all of that, but there's not the, like, I don't know, intense emphasis on what's going on in the sport that I don't care about as much about. But this was it was just a great mix of so many things. So yeah, 5 stars. And we are going into the last book now, which again, I have good feelings about. So friends, we are finishing it off with another 5 stars. So, you know, let's celebrate a little. We had 3 5 stars in this video. I think it's really interesting to realize that like the books in this video really were either like a 3 or 5 stars. So, you know, there was none, I mean, kind of, there are no saints, but there were none that I very actively hated. But quickly about A Crown of Oaths and Curses. It was fantastic. I really like the world building in this one. It is like an incredible slow burn romance too. Like, think the slowest slow burn you could ever imagine, and this is that book. Like, by the end of it, they were basically tolerating each other enough to kind of have a conversation. So it's like very much true enemies to lovers, and we are nowhere near lovers. I feel like that is going to be like, I think it's a 3-book series. I have a feeling that's going to be book 3. They kind of start to do something, but I deeply enjoyed this. Really like the characters, love the world. The world building was just like intensely rich. There's so much like lore and magic and just interesting things going on. So yeah, loved it. Absolute 5 star. And with that, we're going to be finishing off the video. So overall, I think this actually went fantastic. I am so happy with like overall how all of these books went. Honestly, the only thing that could have been better is like, I don't know, maybe one more 5 star and it would have been over half of them, but otherwise I am so happy. Found some new favorites, found some more authors I want to read more of, and yes, this was wonderful. So if you haven't already, please subscribe and keep an eye out for my next video. Bye.